Welcome on in to the Wise Guys podcast. This is episode 105. I am John Tortorelli, Brian Capozziello, and Justin Wright. Today discussing, can the Boston Celtics pull off something no NBA team has ever done? Nikola Jokic being top 5 offensive player of all time. Carmelo Anthony's retirement. Stay me 7-0. I don't know what the hashtag was, but I always liked it. As well as some NFL topics as we dive into our Versus series and a little bit of over-unders now that we are just 1 week away from June. Speaking of June, fellas, so I don't know how to introduce this. Have you guys ever been to a concert?
Yes, I have. I saw Kanye West in Manhattan, a free concert in 23rd Street, right in front of the Flatiron Building. It was incredible.
Wow.
I'm not really much of a concert guy, but if there's any concert I would have gone to, it was that one.
Easy, huh?
Yeah,
Now I've been to one concert in my entire life. This is a pretty funny story, right? So I was I don't know how old I was, maybe 12, 13, 11 years old around that time. Maybe 14 or whatever. And I have two nieces who are twins. And my mom was taking them, and I went along. I don't know why I was going along at that time, but we went along and we went to a concert in, it was either Mohegan Sun or Foxwoods, one of the casinos in Connecticut. So this was around maybe late 2000s, early 2010s, around like maybe 08 to 2011, 12-ish. Give you a time frame. Which pop, I'll give you guys a little closer to him. Which pop music singer do you think we went to go see? Who was big at that time?
What year?
They had a TV show. They had a TV show too. I'll give you even that hint.
Oh, it's they.
Well, I don't want to give you the gender, so to give you a
Big Time Rush.
John, you want to give a guess?
This is what, 2008?
2008, 2012-ish, around that time.
Okay, so I'm thinking 2011. Well, it was a big time pops singer in 2011. No, I was 8 years old at the time. I can't even.
It has to be the Jonas Brothers.
All right, you guys are gonna get. It was Hannah Montana.
Nah, I should have guessed that. I watched that.
Well, because I didn't want to give you the gender, because if I said she, then you guys would be like, oh, she. Okay, now we know that. I didn't want to give that away.
That's messed
game. Yeah. We went to go see Hannah Montana. She didn't show up for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. She was late. And yeah, that's the only concert I've ever been to. But I love Miley Cyrus now anyway. So, that's one of my favorites. Shout out Miley Cyrus.
Okay, I asked because your boy might be going to watch College Park by Logic, but here's the issue here, man. Do I want to go to New York City where the reviews are all crappy on the Manhattan Center Ballroom, or do I want to go to Connecticut where we can record a show together live at CSB, man? It'd be pretty awesome to do that together. Actually, next Saturday on the 3rd, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I'm going to go to Connecticut. I think if I'm going to go, there's about a 65% chance, which is like the likelihood of the Heat winning Game 5, then we'll be able to record a live show together for the first time.
All right.
By the way, we should have done it when we were at school together. I don't know why we waited so long. I guess it's on one of us for not making the idea. But shout out to Romain in the chat. Also, Darren, drop a like on the stream, fellas, if you haven't already. But now hold that out of the way. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics.
Let's do it.
A convincing Game 4 victory to not get swept. Congratulations. Is there any chance they can come back and win 4 straight games to end the Miami Heat season? Do we actually think that's possible? Because when I look at this series, the Boston Celtics ebb and flow too much to be that one team that's going to consistently outperform the Miami Heat. I think there will be a team one day to do it. And when you look at the history of higher favored seeds going down 3-0, the Celtics have a better chance, in theory, than any other team before of making the impossible possible. But I don't think they actually have the parts in place.
Man, so I don't know if you guys know this, but do you know who was sitting in the crowd in Game 4 in the TD Garden? Brandon, you know where I'm going?
Yes. A-Rod and Jeter.
Alex Rodriguez
and they blew the 3-0.
And as much as it pains me to say, but they were a part of the 04 New York Yankees who were up 3-0 in the ALCS against the Boston Red Sox when the Red Sox came and had probably the most insane postseason run to break a long 80-plus year curse. Now, it's funny. They were in the crowd. I'm just building this up for no reason because, no, I don't think Boston has a chance. At least not this time around. I think Miami is just too tough of a team. And we've seen that through games 1, 2, and 3, just how tough Miami can be. So they take advantage of a game where Miami shoots 25% from three and Boston shoots, what, 40% from three? And that was the difference in the game. Boston knocked down their open looks. They had better shots and they made them. That unlike what they were doing in games 1, 2, and 3. They won't shoot 40% from three again. Maybe Boston at most can steal one more and force it to game 6, but even that I feel is unlikely. I think Miami's just been too good this postseason and for anybody to assume that they're going to lose 3, 4 straight. I can't see it happening. I'm going to go with Miami. I think the series ends tonight.
Oh, but first off, FLB, there will be no slander about Miley Cyrus in the chat or on this show, all right? It's my homegirl. That's first off. Let's get to the Celtics heat. Bam playing like he has CTE. Yeah, I'll get to that. So Justin kind of spoke on a couple of things there about game 4. What I saw in a nutshell was the game was the Celtics made 10 more threes than the Miami Heat, 18-8. And to a lesser extent, Miami had 5 more turnovers than the Boston Celtics. A couple of uncharacteristic ones even late into the game. So that to me was really like the catalyst to why we lost game 4. When you only make 8 threes and the other team's making 18, and then you throw on top of that, you're making careless turnovers late, and you lead the turnover battle by or you lose the turnover battle by +5. That's a recipe for, losing the game. And then you throw on top of that Kyle Lowry shooting pretty bad. There's apparently, rumors out there that this guy is being held together by like basically a string. Like his body is really, really breaking down on him, and he's just out there guts and glory, baby. He's giving it everything he's got. And hell, for 36 years old, I think, for those miles on his legs and the way he plays, which is tough physical basketball, he's giving it all he's got. You got
37 nowadays.
37. You got our boy FLB Romaine said in the chat, Bam was unaggressive. He got into foul trouble early in the first half. He had 3 before the half. That's not a recipe for success. And on top of that, Gabe Vincent had 3 before the half. That's 2 of your second best player on the team and one of your major contributors to this playoff run being in foul trouble early in the game. And then not to mention Gabe Vincent late in the game in the fourth quarter tweaks his ankle. I know everybody in that stadium arena and even his bench gave a huge wince of like, oh God, no, this is not good. But they're saying it was just a tweak. He was able to come back in the game. So I'm hoping, it's okay. Obviously traveling on a plane when you tweak your ankle is not good because the pressure's up there and it's going to balloon up more, but hopefully they ice it. They treat it well and he's able to play. I kind of expect him to play tonight. And like you said, Bam was unaggressive in the first half. He had not in the first, but he had 7 shots in the entire game. See that you can have 3 fouls early, in the first half. I think he picked his 4th one up in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. But you still got to be aggressive when you're in the game, offensively at least. Like defensively, you can't really be because you don't want to pick up that next foul. But when you're offensively, we've seen Bam. John, what have I said on the show? The best Bam is an aggressive Bam, and we didn't get that. And then on top of that, Duncan Robinson was not used effectively, in my opinion, throughout that entire game. After 2 games in a row of them finally finding something of using the cutting actions, seeing him, using him more than just a handoff dribble, handoff picks for 3-pointers. We go away from that. Like, why are we going away from what was working very effectively? You were getting easy buckets in the lane, getting Duncan Robinson easy looks at the cup, making it easier for him to make his 3-point shots. And we go away from that. And I think he went over, if I'm not mistaken. He might have made a 1 shot.
He wasn't over.
So I just need for game 4. For game 5, I really don't expect us to shoot that bad from 3 again. It was a pretty bad night for us. I expect Bam to be more aggressive. I expect Gabe Vincent, hopefully not to get in early foul trouble. I expect Kyle Lowry to make his shots. And I expect Eric Spoelstra to go back into the lab, create a better game plan, or not even create a better game plan, just do what you did do for the first 3 games. We kind of got away from that. Like there was a little bit of maybe, I don't even want to say this about a Miami Heat team led by Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and Jimmy Butler, but there was a little bit of a lackadaisical effort, and that can't be. And I think Eric Spoelstra kind of did sum it up in the post game where he was like, we had open shots, we missed them, unforced errors. And he spoke, if you listen to it, he spoke so confidently about it that I feel like he's just like, and Jimmy, you saw Jimmy smiling in the fourth quarter late in the game when they were down a lot. I actually do think that this team understands and realizes what they did wrong. They're going to go to Boston and they're going to correct their errors. And as long as they play their brand of basketball to the highest level with the highest effort and energy, the sky's the limit, because we were just up 3-0 on the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. That was in the championship game last year. So I'm not super. So back to your original question, John, can the Celtics do the impossible? I agree with you that they have probably the best chance of doing it right now because of the Miami Heat team. I've always said this about my Miami Heat team. We're not more talented than Boston. I'm not going to, on paper, you look at the players, you're taking Boston, right? But when we go out in the court, we see what happens. So I'm not blind to that or ignorant to that fact. Boston obviously has the best chance. They won game 4 in our house. They get to win. They win the rest. So it's different from the Lakers, right? In game 4, if you guys remember, if they would have won that game, they would have just earned the right to go to Denver and probably lose in 5, right? Boston earned the right, winning in Miami, to go back to their house. While, albeit, they've been, 4-5 during these playoffs at home. They've earned the right to go back home. And everybody's pretty confident. You got Charles Barkley, you got Skip, you got Shannon Sharp, you got all these guys basically saying the Celtics are winning game 5. Dave Portnoy even. The Celtics are guaranteed winning game 5, 100%. And if there's anything I know in sports, it's when everybody is saying something is going to happen, you just got to be wary of that.
Look, I think it's delusional thinking the Celtics are coming back from down 3-0. And it's a great dream to have because as a basketball fan, we all want to see it. We all want to see the impossible. We all want to see a competitive series. But the Boston Celtics are 11-12 the last 2 years at home in the playoffs. The Miami Heat are just the better team. And Jaylen Brown, who's supposed to be the second or third best player in this series, hasn't even been one of the 5 best players. This is one of the worst series I've ever seen from him. And if you're going to rely exclusively on Jason Tatum to win you 4 straight games in a row, I've got bad news for you. You're not going to do it. This Celtics team is cooked. Their year's over. People blamed it on Joe Mazzulla. I just think they've lost their defensive identity. And one game where on the road, they beat the Heat with their gas off the pedal, I'm not going to move by that, and I never will. So Celtic fans, I'm wishing you guys best of luck. I want you to win tonight. Believe me, I'm hoping to see this go to 6 or 7 games because it makes better basketball. But at the end of the day, they're not going anywhere. I look at the Celtics team, and they've got so many concerns and red flags, and I don't think one single superstar is going to mask that versus a much more complete, well-coached, very well-rounded Miami squad. So that's honestly a discussion. I don't think there's anything else.
So, let's put a number on it, right? I just give me a percentage, you guys. What's the percentage chance the Celtics have to do the impossible, be the first team ever to
2%.
come back? 2 or 3?
2.
2? So, okay.
I'll say 1.
1% chance. Okay.
Yeah, it's the record of teams trailing 0-3 going into a series is
they've never blew it. Yeah, they've never blew it.
And what makes anybody think Boston's going to be the one? Is it just people are going to drag the narrative? And look, I mentioned it immediately. That's exactly what people are thinking. At least I'm sure the city of Boston is thinking, 0-3, we're not afraid of it. We've done it before. No, you got lucky. You got very lucky. A lot of things have to go your way. Every bit of of luck has to really go the Celtics' way in this series for them to be the 1 in 150. And it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to exhaust that.
Yeah, Duncan and it would take Duncan and Max Strus shooting 1 of 9 from 3 the next 3 games, basically.
Yeah, and while I completely agree with you guys, right? You asked a question, Justin, like why do people think this is going to be different, right? I don't know all the other 150s, right? I don't know all those other teams. We'd have to, go down the list, and that's going to take way too long. So, speaking just on this series, as a Miami Heat fan and being completely objective, why do I believe people think this is different? Couple reasons. The Miami Heat team are the biggest underdogs probably since the 04-03 Pistons. You've got the fact that the Miami Heat are injury rattled. Tyler Hero's out, Oladipo's out, Jimmy is still dealing with the ankle injury. Gabe Vincent went down. Bam is still dealing with stuff. You got the fact that Boston was the number 2 seed in the NBA this year. They are a loaded team, even though not playing like that consistently enough. They are a loaded team. They are better on paper. They were in the championship game last year. And the fact that you won a game in Miami, you have home court advantage. You got 5 and 7 in your house. You know what I mean? So those are the biggest reasons why I think people are looking towards Boston as they can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also they're in a bigger market and people want them to win the series.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that, but yeah. But that's mostly the Boston fans, like a Dave Portnoy and stuff that they want to do it.
For entertainment's sake, it'd be nice, but that's just not possible. I don't think it's happening at all.
Yeah. No, for me, it's just I wasn't worried. Like I said, we had a bad game, and I expect in Game 5 us to show up with the even more effort than is needed, and we're gonna out hustle, outwork, and outplay the Boston Celtics like we have 3 out of the last 4 games, and like we have done basically the entire playoffs except for maybe 2 games.
Yeah.
And I know we've got more than 2 losses. I'm saying more than like just 2 games we've been outplayed this entire series. No offense, Justin. Just saying.
One question that's popped up the last couple of days is LeBron James going to retire? And I heard his post-game press conference after being swept by my Nuggets, and I said to myself, LeBron isn't actually retiring. You listen to that interview, and he says, I have a lot to think about this offseason. He's probably alluding to his inevitable surgery on his right foot, which has a torn tendon in it that he played through this postseason. But I think that was just the emotional side of LeBron James after a disappointing game where he drops 40 points and still loses at home. And the frustration that comes with Anthony Davis not showing up and a guy that's been propped up above Jokic, not propped him up specifically, let him down so much that he's exploring his options and trying to gain leverage in this Lakers team. Now, we talked about in October, November, him signing a 2-year, $97 million extension with the Lakers. He doesn't need that $47 million next year. But to me, this is not a signal of LeBron retiring. This is a sign I'm going to gain as much leverage as I can because I know the best way for me to win a championship again in Los Angeles is going to be them gain a star like Kyrie Irving in the equation. That's LeBron's perspective. My understanding is the Lakers could acquire a Kyrie Irving and they would pay him less money than the Mavericks, but they would still have the flexibility to extend Austin Reeves given the Gilbert Arenas extension rules. But at the same time, they'll have the room exception to keep one of Dennis Schroeder or Rui Hachimura. And as we all know with the Lakers, they're going to find a couple of guys to the biannual $4 million that are going to be worth a lot more than $4 million, but they'll be able to fill out the back end of their roster. Do you guys actually think that LeBron could retire? And did we see LeBron's last ever playoff game? I think is the bigger question none of us thought about coming into Game 4.
No, I don't. I'm not buying the retirement. I think LeBron was genuinely hurt after that game, and I think he was just strictly speaking, off of instant reaction and from the heart. And I think he is serious. Like I mean, the devil's in the details, guys. He basically said what you all should take as what he said. He's been to the conference finals how many times? 11 times, 12 times, whatever the hell it is. The shit not new to him, he said. Like this is not a win for him. I know because a bunch of even myself said the Lakers had a successful season because of how everybody viewed them coming into it and throughout the entire season. LeBron don't view it that way because he's LeBron freaking James. It's championship or bust for LeBron James basically since 2008. Yeah, this is he said this team wasn't enough this year. And by that, I think he means in totality, he wasn't healthy enough. And I think he's coming to grips with his basketball mortality, where it's I don't know if I'm going to be healthy late next season, going into a late playoff run. I don't know. He's probably going to miss the start of the season if he has surgery on his foot, right? You got AD who is always dealing with something. I know he's only missed, I think, one playoff game with the Lakers, I believe, or in his entire career. I'm not completely sure, but he's usually been on the court in the playoffs. But it's also not just that. It's also his lack of effort and motor offensively. Because defensively, I cannot take anything away from AD this playoff run. Defensively, he has been on every single game. He might have gotten cooked by Jokic multiple times, but he was still giving his all, right? Offensively is where his motor dropped here and there. And that's not good because LeBron is all, what have we all said? Everybody knew when AD came to LA, it was, okay, LeBron takes maybe the first 2 years as the lead guy, but AD, you're getting the keys to the castle. You need to take over. And he has not yet.
He has. He was their best player this postseason.
He was, but yet you can't
run
come up short like that, John, especially in the closeout game. LeBron's the one that kept everybody in. LeBron's the one that had a 31-point first half, the highest in his entire career. Where was AD? Where was AD in the second half?
Anthony Davis is no Nikola Jokic. 66% of his field goals are assisted. He can't create an offense for himself. He can't be the backbone of
Anthony Davis can't create offense for himself.
No, that's not what I said.
You just said that. You just said that.
Anthony Davis can't initiate the offense and generate a high-level performance on that side of the floor. He's going to have great games. He's going to have great sequences, but throughout an entire regular season into a playoff run, he will not be the initiator of a high-level offense. So he is more of the secondary complement.
What are we doing? Then we're running into a wall. We're running in circles then if that's the case, because LeBron can't be the guy anymore right now. While he was playing an elite level before the injury in January, I completely agree with that. He was a top 5 player. He still might be when healthy. But now we have to come to grips with mortality. You're going to get injured. He's not, there's no slight. He while he takes care, I don't even want to say that because I'm not going to get into that. But it's you got to come to grips now. If you're saying AD is better as a number 2, then we're running into a wall, John. We can't do that because we need somebody to take this is why people are calling for Kyrie, because LeBron has to take a little bit more of a backseat, especially throughout the entire regular season. And when he can turn it on the playoffs, because you looked at him defensively in the playoffs, he turned it up and he was playing at a still pretty high level. You saw that play against Jamal Murray he had. Why people are calling for Kyrie while I say I got a feeling Kyrie's coming to LA is because you have now Kyrie, Bron, and AD. If AD can't be the guy, then what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
But he is the guy.
You
bring Kyrie Irving.
You just said he's not the guy, John. You just said right there. You just said he's better as a 2-man. He can't initiate his own offense at a consistently high level. If that's the case, what are we doing? Because you got to get the ball out of LeBron's hands too. He can't have the ball in his hands every single play anymore. He can't do that.
We know that Nikola Jokic is the only center in the league that can, by himself, make you an elite level offense. Anthony Davis was a loser before coming to Los Angeles. Don't scoff at me for saying that.
That I agree with.
He's never been an initiator of an elite level offense. This is the facts. So Anthony Davis can still be the best player on your team, but if you sign Kyrie Irving, he checks off the last box the Lakers are missing. Now, when Justin wasn't here, you and I were discussing, are they going to sign Kyrie? Does that make sense? And I said no. But the reason I said that was because you can't sacrifice your depth to bring in Kyrie. But I've learned they can still extend Austin Reeves as a restricted free agent if they do bring in Irving. And if that's the case, then you do that 10 times out of 10. Because the one thing they were missing was consistent elite level shot making and shot creation. Something D'Angelo Russell, everybody thought in the regular season would provide. I tried to tell you he wasn't going to. But he had 4 good games in total in a 13-game playoff run, so people got misconstrued by it. So here's the thing. You bring in Kyrie Irving. He's the 3rd best player in that team. Anthony Davis is still the guy, but he's just not going to be the number 1 guy on both ends of the floor. Because, newsflash, post Hakeem Olajuwon and maybe Shaq, no player in NBA history has been at the center position. And that's okay to accept. But I think people put unfair standards on Anthony Davis, expect him to be a player that he simply never was because of the name value of what he can do and the dominance defensively. He's probably one of the 2 or 3 best defenders in the league. I would say 2 are behind Draymond, but you can't expect him to also be the best player in the league offensively too, or a top 5 player, because he never has been and he never will be at 30 years old.
Okay. Well, first off,
I mean, didn't he go toe to toe with the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs when he was on the Pelicans?
He got swept.
He okay, then I must be forgetting something then.
He dominated the Portland Trailblazers in 2017.
But here's my thing, right, about the
2018, excuse me. And he lost in 5 games, not 4.
About the expectations thing. We expected it because we all believed Anthony Davis can be an all-time great player. Like, you can't go back now and say we should have unfair expectations. No, these were the Was he not the number 1 pick in the draft?
So was Anthony Bennett. What's your point?
Hold on. There was not that type of hype around Anthony Bennett that there was Anthony Davis. Stop it. Didn't Anthony Davis play for the USA team when he was in college?
He's one of the 2 best one and dones ever.
Okay, so what the expectations here, John, were the expectations not because of out of the freaking blue. All right, it's because they looked at him as like, holy crap, this guy who played point guard basically his high school career, then had a massive growth spurt, now has the ball handling skills of a guard at 6'11", 270. These expectations are there for a reason. Now he agreed. He has shown us now he can't be that guy. And you with the air quotes, again, that's still a problem to me. This is a problem. I agree. I told you, I have a feeling Kyrie is going to be a Laker this next season. But again, I think that gives, honestly, I thought about it, that gives them the best shot to win a championship next year, because AD can't be that guy. LeBron is not that anymore not because of his skill level, but because of basketball mortality. And now you add Kyrie. So and now you're apparently blowing my mind that they could keep Austin Reeves too. If they're able to pull off Kyrie, Reeves, Braun, and AD, I mean, I don't know how you don't look at that and say, hell yeah. And then we just surround the guys with veteran players that can come off the bench and provide, key minutes and make smart basketball players. I think that's the smartest decision.
I think if you really think about LeBron and his career, his 2 greatest teammates of all time are Dwayne Wade and you'd probably say Kyrie Irving, the 2 perfect marriages in his career. And, granted, he won a ring with AD, but when you look back at that tenure with Kyrie and you look back at the tenure with Wade, you're like, wow, they worked so well off of each other. And realistically, if had Kyrie and LeBron probably stayed together, we're probably talking about LeBron winning another one with Kyrie. So I'd say it's been a long time coming now that we've been waiting for them. And it's been rumored many, many times about them possibly reuniting at some point. And this is the time. Kyrie, an unrestricted free agent. The Lakers can make the moves to get him. I think you have to do absolutely everything in your power to bring in Kyrie if you want LeBron James to help and be a part of another championship team. Because without Kyrie or maybe a Damian Lillard or somebody of that sorts, you're not going to see another LeBron James NBA Finals for the rest of your life. I can guarantee that. And, John, I really do think you're being too nice to Anthony Davis, somebody that was a MVP candidate at some point, a person that we all looked at to be the number one, not because he never couldn't be that. We all expected him to be that. He definitely has not lived up to the expectations that everybody thought he would going into LA. Outside of winning a ring in the bubble, he has fallen well short of expectations. This is a person that you expected to carry the freight. He could do that. He's capable of doing that. He's just shown how inconsistent he is. So I just think you're being too nice. He plays in LA. You play for one of the greatest organizations in sports history. No, step the hell up. Come on.
Yeah.
Isn't this the Pau Gasol thing though? Like Pau Gasol played for the Lakers too. And
Oh,
he was a
stop
great
it.
number
Oh,
two.
come
Are you going to
on.
compare Pau Gasol to Anthony Davis, what they're capable
They
of?
both are not number ones on championship teams.
Who's
But
more likely to be, though?
Wait, did Paul Gasol
AB.
ever average 28 and 13?
No.
Okay. So here's the last question for this segment. Yes or no? We'll go round table. Start with John. Go Justin, then I'll finish it off. Was that LeBron James's last chance at an NBA Finals?
No way. Even if he's not going to be able to do it on the Lakers, if the Cavaliers draft Bronny and he has a player option after 2024 and he conveniently signs with that team by declining with his player option, I do not think by any chance. I think he's still going to have a great chance, especially because the Western Conference is wide open right now. The parity in the NBA has never been greater, and there's an understanding of what LeBron now is. He's not Superman. He's just a top 15 player or top 12 player, right? That in stretches can be the best player in the court. So no, to me, he's going to have at least one more chance, and I don't think he's going to retire.
Yeah, no. I think we'll see LeBron playing in the NBA Finals at least one more time. But more so, not the whole Bronny factor, but more so, I do think Kyrie's coming to LA.
Yeah, I don't think that was LeBron James's last chance at an NBA title because I think there's one last shot, and I think it's this upcoming season. And like I said, I have a feeling Kyrie's coming. So you get that big three, you're able to keep AR. That's major. But after that, after next season, that's going to be his last shot this upcoming season, an NBA championship, because wherever Bronny goes, it's not going to be a good team. I do truly believe he's going to be a lottery pick, if not top 7. And he's if that's where LeBron James is going. And again, we're only taking LeBron's word for it. We haven't even heard Bronny's opinion on this, and I do want to respect his opinion on it because, and LeBron said it multiple times too, that's my aspiration. That might not be his. So we still got to see about that. And yeah, but if that's the case, he does go end up and team up with Bronny. I don't think that team's going to be. I think that's going to be more of like the Michael Jordan on the Washington Wizards, and we're going to, as fans and people who love the game of basketball, we're going to look at that season and be like, we don't have to take value into that really season like that. That's more of a just like, okay, that's more of a last dance, you want to call it, I guess.
But outside of the Wizards, I think if you put LeBron on any of these rebuilding teams, they become very good. You put LeBron on the Spurs with Victor and Devin Vassell. You put him on the Pistons with Cade, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren. You put him on the Magic with Paolo France. There's going to be some shooting issues, but they would be like Death Jam with like 7 6'10" forwards. And you even put him on the Portland Trailblazers. LeBron, Shane Sharp, and Anthony Simons, I think all of those teams would be pretty good. Like, I don't think there'd be some middling 39-win teams like the Wizards have always been historically.
Maybe. But speaking about the 03 draft class,
Carmelo Anthony has retired. What a career it was. Arguably the greatest one and done in NBA history. Not only that, but the only rookie to win Rookie of the Month every single month, and it still did not win Rookie of the Year. Carmelo will become a 10-time All-Star, and in my lifetime, a 6-time All-NBA performer. I got to watch his entire career. We got to see him evolve in time. Just as a Knicks fan, there have been some rumors he should have his jersey, number 7, retired in New York. So my first question for you is, number 1, should it be retired by the Knicks or the Nuggets or even both? My second question, and this matters a lot more, how should Carmelo Anthony be remembered?
It's crazy. So when he retired, I was on my work trip, so I couldn't get to watch ESPN and see what they were saying but I was looking at comments on Twitter, and there's some Knick fans that are like, "Oh, you're nuts for saying he deserves his jersey retired," and then other people saying he absolutely deserves it. And I'm in the group that believes that you should retire his jersey. I think Carmelo Anthony, what he did for the New York Knicks, especially in a time where we were coming off those teams with Chris Duhon, the Marburys, the Eddie Currys, all of those guys. David Lee had just left the team. No success whatsoever. No playoff appearances there. And Melo and Amari really brought back what New York basketball really means to a city. And for a fan that's 25 years old, that was the first group that I actually got to watch and really made me fall in love with my team, fall in love with basketball. I think Carmelo Anthony to the New York Knicks is the one superstar, at least of the last 20 years, that really showed you he wanted to be there. He fought to be a New York Knick. And I think that has to mean something in a world where we see all these superstars clowning our organization and refusing to come to our team. We can't pull anybody. But no, we got Carmelo Anthony, the 9th all-time scoring leader in NBA history. I love Carmelo Anthony. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's a first ballot Knick, probably a top 5 Knick of all time, arguably.
But you did. No, yeah, you did answer. Do you think his Denver Nuggets number should be retired, or?
Oh, that's a tougher one. I mean, they had success. They went to the playoffs a couple of times, and that was probably. Would you say that's the best version of Melo? I don't know. It's
2013 or 2009.
Yeah, it was
I would say the one when they won 54 games in New York with Mike Woodson. That to me was the best playmaking version of Carmelo, where he could run pick and roll and was like really able to leverage that scoring gravitas into creating opportunities for his teammates. It was just unfortunate that was the last we got to see of Melo as the guy on a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the Denver Nuggets. Melo was definitely in no shot, but much better shape. I mean, he was much more athletic in his Denver days. But yeah, well, I mean, what a career for Carmelo Anthony. I mean, one of the greats. I have him in my top 10 small forwards of all time. I know John got on. I think Justin had him in his top 10. You had him in your top 10 small forwards of all time too. I think as well. Yeah.
Jimmy Butler's taking a spot now, so I feel better.
All right, but not today, John. Not today. This is more of a praising Carmelo Anthony. But Carmelo, I mean, one of the all-time great one-on-one scorers. Offensively, this guy, I mean, you can look up the NBA players that have played against him and said he's one of the toughest matchups. Like in ISO situation, he's almost unguardable. The moves he was able to perfect at a level is just insane. And like John said too, he was an underrated playmaker. I mean, he just didn't. That really wasn't his thing. He was a scorer. Like that man was a killer on the court. He could get you involved and make high level passes and stuff like that. But really, what he wanted to do was give me the ball and get the hell out of my way because I'm Carmelo Anthony. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, a lot of people say he got robbed of that Rookie of the Year. They gave it to LeBron because how can you not give it to the chosen one, right? But yeah, I think, and I hate the fact that I think a lot of the newer generation and even probably people in my generation too are going to look back at Melo and obviously say he didn't win, he didn't get to the big one, but it's like. That's something that I don't agree with in my generation and the future generations to come is while I put so much stock into rings, I can still understand a player's greatness. We even in football terms, I mean, Dan Marino is in a lot of people's top 5s. I think he should be in everybody's top 10s. I have Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees in my top 5 quarterbacks. Those guys only won one apiece. The ring chasing culture, while it is, obviously something that's going to jump your career, I don't think we should ever look back on a player and diminish him. Like, yes, the people who are ahead of him are going to be ahead of him, but don't don't get it twisted on people that may have won a ring but weren't better than Carmelo Anthony, because he was an all-time great player. And I know it would have obviously probably broken Justin's heart if what should have happened back in 2011, which was Carmelo Anthony was supposed to be the third member of the Miami Heat Big Three, the Heatles. It was supposed to be Wade, Bron, and Melo, but Melo signed that extra year in Denver and then forced his way out, going to New York, and he couldn't become a free agent at the same time that Bosh, Wade, and Bron all did. So it worked out in that favor with those big three, but it was supposed to be Melo, Bron, and Wade. And I've always said, no disrespect to Chris Bosh, because I love Chris Bosh, but I've always said, if it was Melo instead of Bosh in that Dallas series, the first go around, we would not have lost, because LeBron James lost us that series. Dwayne Wade showed the hell up. And if Melo was there, there's no way you're talking me out of Carmelo Anthony not showing up in an NBA Finals, the first one of his entire career, especially against that Dallas Mavericks team. So I look back and say, he made his decisions and Melo was about his money, right? And you can't hate on him. He made his bread. He won games. He put up points. I tip my hat to Carmelo Anthony, right? Respect. One of the greats.
And he also had a chance to sign with the Bulls in 2014, teaming up with Jimmy and Derrick Rose at that point, which was past his peak, but still Joakim, Jimmy, and later on Pau Gasol would then be that roster spot. That would have been a pretty dangerous Bulls team too, I think, because one thing we talk about Melo, while he was one of the tougher covers in the league, his release was so quick he couldn't even contest it in time. So the turnaround fadeaways, the jumpers, all of that stuff out of the post, the in-between space, and the triple threat position. I mean, he was one of the few guys that by himself as a scorer can make you an elite offense. Nowadays, we don't really see that. Like, a guy could put up 28 points per game and will be on the 24th ranked offense. But with Melo in 2013, the Knicks were top 5, and that was really because of him. And he led the league in scoring that season. I was trying to see if the Nuggets extend him or the Knicks did in 2011 after acquiring him, but I think it was the Nuggets extension for 1 year, like Brandon alluded to. Because he was only going to sign a long-term extension if he was traded, and that was what exactly led to him being moved, because the Nuggets didn't want Bloom for nothing. And I don't think they should retire his number, because he kind of did force his way out of there. But the Knicks, I do think they should consider it, because, like you said, Justin, this was perfectly said. You want to talk about number 15, Denver?
Yeah, but I just want to say Carmelo Anthony's number should be retired as a New York Knick.
Right. I don't even know. I don't even think it's really debatable. So the fans saying it, I get it. They want to throw the playoff series in there. But, dude, we weren't even playing in playoff series without him. So you got to be a little grateful. And then, in credit, Brandon, I know you touched on the ring talk. He played in a Western Conference with Tim Duncan, probably the greatest power forward of all time, and then Kobe Bryant, who people throw in their top 5 players of all time. And then he played in the Eastern Conference with arguably the greatest player of all time in LeBron James. So it's not like he had to walk in the park to get to the finals.
Yeah, those years. I mean, we have Chris Paul's Pelicans / Hornets that are winning 56 games. We had the Mavericks with Dirk in 2009. We had the Kings in their heyday, 2006. But the Western Conference was littered with 51 teams back then. And to build off your point, Justin, I felt like Carmelo Anthony was first team all vibes by coming to New York. The excitement was off the charts. And even like 12 years later, you can feel the excitement with Jalen Brunson that's only compared to Carmelo, because he gave you guys hope. He restored a level of belief that you could contend for a championship. And while that may have been short-lived, that spark he invigorated was something the city really can appreciate more than anything else. So
yeah,
he's the reason for a lot of Knicks fans right now.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, John. Carmelo Anthony was built for New York City. Like that was a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
So
stay mellow, baby.
Oh, that's what the hashtag is? I've always been confused by the 7. I've never really talked to people about it. I like it, though. Great idea. I feel like it's kind of embarrassing to put 2 and 2 together, but you know what? It's all good.
Now you know.
Is Nikola Jokic a top 5 offensive player in NBA history? I've actually really gone back and forth with this, because there are very few players historically that have the case of being the best passer, but also best scorer in the league. And what we've seen this postseason with him averaging 30 points on 63% true shooting is something that is so rare for a guy that isn't even a scorer at first. It's only something we talk about with LeBron James, that you can be a pass first player and yet this dominant as a scorer. We've had the comparisons, Jokic versus Embiid, but that's the thing. Embiid this year led the league in scoring 33 points per game, but it's the playoffs that really matter. Nikola Jokic's touch, the shots he was hitting versus the Suns and the Lakers, I want to pull him up right now. On AD, Devin Booker, he's one of the toughest shot makers in the league, but he makes it look so easy. I'm going to give you guys some players. But before I do that, what do you guys think about that at face value? Could he legitimately be in that discussion with the all-time legends offensively?
Can he? Yes, I think he definitely can be. And I'll take it even one step further. I think this postseason run right now, which I ultimately believe now he'll probably end with a championship, he's going to solidify himself as probably one of the greatest postseason performers of all time. Like I said, and I've said this many times on the show before, the guy puts up video game numbers, literally playing 2K on rookie mode. That is literally what it looks like when you read a stat sheet from a Denver Nuggets game and you look at Jokic. I don't think that's too far-fetched to believe that he can be top 5 offensive player of all time, right? Am I going to say that now because he's still so young? I'm probably not, just to show some respect for the people that actually put their whole careers to be on that list. But I think Jokic is well on his way.
Yeah, I think right at the end you hit it, Justin. Can he? Yeah. Am I ready to put him there yet? No. This is something, me personally, that I've come to a realization about, honestly, since starting this podcast with you guys. I am hereby done ranking players who are currently playing that haven't put in a very extended amount of time in all-time ranking lists, because I think it's unfair to the greats before them. And I think it's unfair to them, honestly, because we're looking at an unfinished product, and we should not look at and examine an unfinished product and put it against a product that has already been completed, that we can look at the entirety of a thing and look at the ups, the downs, and all those in betweens. We can't with an unfinished product. So that's for me personally. You guys can, and I maybe I'll play along with you guys too, because it's freaking sports and we love doing this shit, and it's just for fun. It's fun, good debates to get in, and you guys know I love a good debate. But just for serious purposes, I know I got a little serious there on you guys, but I don't really want to engage in ranking like some people are saying Nikola Jokic is a top 15 player of all time if he wins a championship like that. I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. I can't do it.
No, I agree with you there. It feels very pushed by doing that in the middle of a playoff run. He hasn't finished yet. But when I ask you that question, I'm talking about peak for peak. Like Nikola Jokic at 28 years old leads the Nuggets in the playoffs in points, and I would imagine assists too, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
He's already the best Nugget of all time in his 9th season, which is crazy.
Yeah, we can talk skill and stuff, and 100%. We can go down the list if you want. I do believe. Is he the best passer in basketball? When you ask me that, a couple of names obviously come to mind. LeBron James, Chris Paul to a lesser extent now. He's not what he once was, but he's still got one of the highest basketball IQs in the game. I'm blanking on some other elite passers.
James Harden, Tyrese Halliburton.
James Harden's gotten up there. Halliburton. John loves his Halliburton. But yeah, he's definitely up there. He's definitely
good.
Yeah, Jokic is definitely top 2, top 3 in the NBA in passing. Scoring wise, like strictly scoring, that's a tougher one. I know people are saying he's got an argument to be the best scorer and passer in the league, and you can only really say that about LeBron. For me, was LeBron really looked at as ever the best scorer in basketball?
He's led the league in points per game. He's probably the most dominant force.
How many times was he a scoring champion? It was once. As a tiger.
Yeah, but nobody looks at LeBron as a scorer. While he scores points, when you think of a scorer, you think of the Kobe's that can shoot
Yeah.
That can score on all three sides.
Carmelo. Yeah. Kevin Durant, like that's who I kind of look at. Like, it goes down to the argument, dude. LeBron's got the most points in NBA history. He's got to be the greatest scorer. It's an all-time award, man. Like, yes, we know LeBron's a great scorer, but do we ever look at him as one of the greatest? Especially when we go like bag for bag and what he can do at all three levels of the game and stuff like that. It you kind of see and look like. That's why people always put KD is the best scorer. And I'm looking at your list, and you don't even have KD on that list. So I'm just interested. I don't even know if Jokic. Can you make an argument Jokic is a top 5 scorer in the NBA? 100%. I'm not taking that away, but I don't know if you can make the case he's top 2 or 3. Like we really have to. We can go down the list if you want to, like, and really analyze this because it's a very interesting discussion to be had. You know what I mean?
Let's do
John,
it.
if you need a bucket right now, you too, Brandon. You need a bucket right now. Who you passing the ball to in the NBA?
This is 5-on-5 or 1-on-1?
It's 5-on-5. Who do you want with the ball in
the
hand?
ball per game.
If I need a bucket, you're going for the win.
I'm taking Nikola Jokic.
Okay.
And the reason being, he doesn't need to score himself. He can do anything, and he's the most unstoppable cover if you want to send a double team. So I'm gonna.
But I think Justin's asking about him getting the point.
Who's going to score?
Passing out, like who's going to make him scoring? That's what I think he's asking.
There's the scoring culture, and if that's what we're going off of, I'd probably go with.
Like that's what I'm saying. It's like
Luka or KD. But
I would say either KD or Book.
Booker's top 4. But if I just want a bucket from anybody and I can pick one player, I'm taking Jokic. He's a 7-foot point guard with all the skill set. So here's some of the names. Nikola, you say no?
No, I said he no, I didn't say no. I didn't.
Good.
I did.
Is Nikola Jokic a top 5? Is Nikola Jokic a top 5 offensive player of all time? Is Nikola Jokic a top 5 offensive player of all time? I have 7 different names I'm going to give to you guys. I want to see at his peak, where does he rank among the most dynamic players on that side of the floor? First name up is Michael Jordan.
No.
MJ is the best scorer ever for his era, but
he's the greatest scorer of all time, in my opinion.
If Michael Jordan was in this era today, he'd average 35 plus.
I agree.
Let's see, average 40.
But Jokic has averaged 27. I feel like he can average 32.
Yeah, so, but I get that, but Michael would be doing it at 6'6",
right.
and his efficiency would also like.
Jokic is doing at 7 feet, so he's creating advantages against rim protectors who then wouldn't be able to protect the rim because they're playing him from 15 feet away from it. Yeah. So it's actually more useful to have your center be this good of an offensive threat.
Yeah, and you bring up the playmaking skill of it. And I've always had this point of, for me, I always bring up that season where he averaged 32, 8, and 8 on 50+% shooting from the field. And I always look back at that because I truly do believe if Michael was asked to be the playmaker, he could have been a highly capable playmaker. He wasn't asked, and it wasn't his duty to do that. They just told him to go get a bucket. I'm gonna go get a bucket. So I hear you on that, but I would take Michael. Yeah, because like if we're talking again back to Justin's question, who am I putting the ball? Whose hands do I want the ball in with 10 seconds left in the game, down 1 point? The only answer to me is Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Magic Johnson.
Jokic.
Oh, man.
The recency bias, Justin. How can you say that?
No, I hear you. Because Magic was never that scorer, even though he averaged. I looked at it because I really wanted to get myself acclimated to it. He averaged 19 points per game for his career. He averaged 24 points once, 22 twice, and I think 21 another time. But he was never known as like a scorer, though. That's a tough one.
It's interesting because while Magic wasn't known as a scorer, he played in an era of less spacing, and that's part of the era-centric advantages that Jokic has over him. But at the same time, while Magic played with less shooting, he did also have late years Kareem, James Worthy, and a hell of a team around him all of those years. which helped him have the number 1 ranked offense very often. If Basketball Reference would actually load for me, I'd be able to tell you how often.
Yeah, but he was. I think you would agree with this too, that he was the catalyst behind that number 1. Like without Magic, it doesn't go. That's because he's arguably the greatest playmaker and possibly leader in sports and NBA history. Obviously, playmaking. But that's such a freaking tough question for me, man. I can't give you an answer. I'm sorry, because Magic, while he didn't come into the league with a good jump shot and stuff, he did learn a set jump shot later in his career that was pretty effective. Fuck, that's so tough. That's such a tough question, guys. I know Justin answered it without any hesitation, which I was surprised by.
Dude, man, the guy puts up 30 and 17 and 17 in a loss.
I know, but Magic's put up hella numbers too. Like again, we don't have those numbers in front of us right now, but
I really need Basketball Reference. Like, actually,
I'm taking Magic.
The first 5 years of Magic's career, the Lakers are the best offense in 3 of those. So in transition, where Magic's the best player in NBA history, him or LeBron, I would take him. Jokic is a great transition player, right? I think the one thing that I look at with Jokic is he's a better shooter from mid-range, right? And that's what would give him the edge because he's got all-time touch. But I still think it's a toss-up because Magic at 6'10" is being guarded by point guards, and that's actually not true. He's being guarded by more perimeter players, and he can create more advantages because he can see over them. So can Jokic naturally. But I might just favor Magic here because in his era, scoring was lower than it is in the 2020s and 2010s. It's a toss-up, and for now, I'll go with Magic, but I'm really being nice here because I want to say Nikola. The next name up is Larry Bird.
Okay, so Bird was a better scorer.
Was he?
Yes. Come on.
Who was the better post player? Jokic or Bird?
Well, neither of them are slouches.
It's Jokic. Come on, don't do this.
What do you?
Jokic is the second best post player in the league. Who's the better shooter?
You act like
the Bird.
Bird was the best shooter in the league back in the 80s. What are you talking about?
Jokic is a better shooter than Larry. And I know it's unfair because Bird played right as they introduced the three-point line, but in the playoffs, Larry took 1 3 a game and made 32% of them. Jokic is a much better shooter, I would say. And they're both, like, especially Jokic, he's streaky, but he is a better shooter than Larry when you're comparing the two of them.
People have Bird as a top 5 shooter of all time, right?
And they are wrong, in all due respect. He is not a top 5 shooter. No way. And this is paying him respect because he did pave the way for the newer generation. I'm a Larry guy, but it is not rooted in facts to say he's a top 5 shooter ever.
I'm taking Larry over Jokic. I think he's a better scorer. I think Jokic, playmaking. Listen, Bird is a freaking underrated playmaker. Go ask the expert.
I've watched him play.
I'm taking Bird. I'm taking Bird.
Yep.
Plus he again. This goes back to the finished product and unfinished product, and John is only looking at what's unfinished right now. Bird was a finished product. Like, you can look at him and say, dude, look at his what he did so early on in his career too. That he went back to back MVPs.
Yeah, Jokic should have done that too.
Well, they should have, could have, would have. He didn't.
And to me,
it didn't happen though. That's what I'm saying.
It was the MVP
we can
look. Magic to me is a better
player. John, you cannot use a should or if in an
I'm not
argument.
telling you he should have. He was the MVP. In my eyes, it was not.
That doesn't what you're that we can't do. What are you? You cannot do that. You can't live in fantasy land, John.
I'm just telling you, he was the real MVP.
I don't care.
Justin was the real MVP in 2023. Who was it?
It was Jokic, but he didn't get the vote.
Everybody knows it's Jokic, but he doesn't. If he doesn't get the vote, we can't put it down on paper.
You can't do that, man. You can't.
Okay, so you can't use the Larry Bird triple MVP debate into your argument.
But it happened.
Look, I understand it happened. Larry's a top 5 player of all time. I am a big Larry fan, but to me, I am sorry he was not a better scorer than Jokic. Jokic is way more way more dominant at the
Larry
post.
Bird
At
went
7
into a
feet,
game
260 pounds.
and dominated with his left hand.
I'm aware it's one game.
Yes,
Larry's legend.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so is Nikola
We're talking
Jokic,
about
just
offensive
averaging
specialty.
27
Going
points
into a
and
game
7
saying,
rebounds in the playoffs. Man, I'm really surprised you guys said Larry without hesitation, but we're really stuck on Magic.
What?
that's
What?
how
I didn't
feel about
hesitate. I
Larry.
did hesitate. I gave it a good ponder. I thought about it. I was like, it was scoring, and then I gave it a good. Go back and watch the tape. I did not say it without hesitation. Get out of here, John. See, now you're.
I said it without hesitation.
This is where your Jokic love is coming in. You're not being objective. You're not being objective right now.
What do you mean? He's probably as good of a mid-range shooter, if not a better mid-range shooter than Larry. I think he shoots 60% from mid-range the last couple of seasons. And for his career, he's been an elite mid-range jump shooter. Right? So that's not biased. This is me telling you what
That's
Larry
not the
did
bias
best.
I'm talking about. That's not the bias I'm talking
Jokic was a better post player, a better shooter, and a better playmaker. How is that biased? That's like what we've seen in front of our eyes the last 4 years.
John, listen, that's not the bias I was talking about. The bias I was talking about was you forgetting the fact and just saying without hesitation when I did hesitate and gave it a good ponder. That was the bias I'm talking about. Everybody understands Jokic's skill. We're not like that's why I thought about it. I'm not disrespecting Jokic. Like, again, the unfinished product and finished product. This is, again, we don't even know what Jokic's rest of career is going to look like. Again, but we're going peak for peak. I'm taking Larry, and I don't think that's this is not like me saying Damian Lillard, okay? No shot at Dame. This is Larry freaking Bird. Like, you keep bringing up Jokic's numbers. We can talk Larry's numbers, too. Like, Larry hasn't put up great numbers.
I just want to know, what did Larry do better than Jokic offensively?
I think he's a better shooter than Jokic. I truly do believe he is.
I wish we had the mid-range data for Larry's mid-range shooting.
You know how in today's world we value currency a lot differently than the value of a dollar in yesterday is totally different today. The value of points in the NBA back in the 80s and 90s is completely different to points today. So I feel like Larry Bird's game today would translate into, much like Jordan, another 30-point per game scorer. I think he would dominate the league. He would eat everybody up.
To be clear, I 100% agree with you. Like, he would be he's one of those guys with Jerry and Rick Barry. They were well ahead of their time. But even still, Jokic is like the first ever to be this good at the center position offensively as a passer. So that's where I come from.
John.
I'm sure Celtic fans will love that.
John.
Who's next?
What's up, Brandon?
So I'm on Basketball Reference. It says from 2-point field goal attempts for Larry Bird. His career, he's a 51% from 2-point.
From 2-point range.
From 2-point range. I'm looking at 2-point.
I'm checking his mid-range data now because I just saw the notification Gabe Vincent's out tonight. If you'd like to give a brief reaction.
That's why I got a little reaction. I was like, that's disappointing. So
it is.
We are already thin as is, and it's all right. Kyle Lowry's going to have it summoned.
So the next game I have for you guys is LeBron James versus Nikola Jokic.
Give me Bron.
No, I'll take LeBron.
Yeah, we're not getting an argument there, right, John?
Yes, you are getting an argument.
Oh, okay. So is that? Am I disrespectful? Am I being very disrespectful to Nikola Jokic? No, but Larry Bird is. Who's the better shooter, Larry Bird or LeBron James?
Larry Bird for his era, but if you look at the numbers, it's LeBron. In terms of volume.
Continue in your argument.
Now, from mid-range, it's obviously Larry, but from 3-point range, like that specifically, in the playoffs, again, Larry shot 32% and took 1 attempt per game. Like, people never talk about that when they're saying the top 5 shooter of all time. They just want to think of how influential he was, which totally is correct.
Because it was,
and that's not Larry Bird disrespect. Let's be clear.
He went into a.
That was just a game back then.
He went into a 3-point shooting contest in his warm-ups and said, and looked at all these other elite shooters and said, which one of y'all is taking second place tonight? Went out and won the contest in his warm-ups. But continue with your argument. Go ahead.
It's a little bit different than basketball, but I think LeBron is a worse shooter than Jokic, especially for mid-range, while a more developed one. And then with the playmaking, I think it's pretty similar. But given Jokic is doing this against centers guarding him from 12 feet out, I mean, Jokic can run these split actions as a center, but then he could also run a pick and roll as the guard sometimes too. And he's had moments this postseason where he's getting off the move and throwing down a dunk. He moves well without the ball. It's really disingenuous to say Jokic over LeBron because LeBron has been the best offensive player on a championship team. So until Jokic gets that championship, it's tough because Larry won,
Championships, not just one.
Exactly. He won 4. It's tough. LeBron, to me, is in the same exact tier, but I'm going to go Jokic in my eyes for the shooting and the post scoring because Jokic, again, let's be clear, he's the first or the second best post scorer in the league while doing this too. So it's so unique that he's an old school player with a new school skill. But you guys give your answer?
Yeah, I took LeBron.
Yeah, LeBron.
Steph Curry versus Jokic.
Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. Jokic is a higher floor raiser than Steph, but Steph might be a higher ceiling raiser, right? If you take Steph and you put him on any team, he's not like automatically making them a top 5 offense, which Jokic has with like Will Barton as his second best teammate. But Steph, with the way he can score from 30 feet into his finishing ability, I think Steph being over Jokic is very fair. But it's all in the eye of the beholder. I don't know who I'd go here.
Gotta pick one.
Well, call me a Jokic fan. I'm going with Nikola for his playmaking. But it's tough because Steph's the better off-ball player. So that's what makes it so confusing for me. Last guy up, James Harden versus Nikola Jokic.
Jokic. Harden shouldn't even be on this list.
Well, why not?
He is not on the level.
James Harden had one of the greatest offensive peaks of all time.
He did not. He is not on the level of any of the names that we have just listed.
I agree. Okay? Why is that? Is
that
because
inefficiency.
He was pretty efficient in the regular season.
No, he wasn't.
I'm pulling up.
No, he was not. I'm pretty sure his career is under 45% from the field.
As the guy, he was at 44%, and his true shooting, Brandon, which is
I don't give a crap about true shooting, John. I don't give a goddamn rat's ass about true shooting.
Well, that's why you won't respect an all-time player.
He's an old head now. Come on, you got to respect the advanced.
No, I know because I tried to understand that stat, and I'm not. No, that's not.
It's very simple.
You're not. No, it's not. Explain it to me then.
It's put into account 3 points is worth more than 2 points because every single shot attempt is not created equal. But then you're going to put in 3 throws, and that will get you a clear kind of summary of how many points you generate per shot. Or more specifically, the value and the volume that you have.
Okay.
The value and the point in the shot attempt itself. And for James Harden, 61% is well above league average for what was the best scorer in the league. And later on in his career, he went from being the best scorer to the best playmaker.
Scorer in the league, in my
opinion. He was the most unguardable scorer in the game, averaging 36 points per game, and no one could stop him. So we had Ricky Rubio guarding him from behind. But here's the thing. The reason you're very low on Harden is because he's done nothing in the playoffs, which I'm in agreement with you. But the regular season has to count for something. Okay. And that's why James Harden should be remembered as one of the all-time players offensively.
Not in my opinion. I mean, the playoffs is the thing that brings him down the most. But also, you want to talk regular season. He was an inefficient scorer from the field.
Wrong. That's not true.
That's not wrong. That is a factual statement when the numbers are right in front of me.
So because you can't understand true shooting, James Harden's an inefficient player, is what you're telling me.
Wait, why do we have to only look at true shooting? Does field goal percentage mean nothing anymore?
He shot in his – okay, let's go to his years in Houston.
Go ahead and look at it. Like I haven't done this before.
That guy shot 44% while being the lead creator and what was the best offense in the West outside the Warriors.
Okay, and go tell me what LeBron James, Steph Curry, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Nikola Jokic, all these other guys were shooting. Because I guarantee you it was 48, 49, 50+%.
James Harden took 9 threes a game. So field goal percentage is really going to be watered down by 3
What did Steph Curry do? What did Steph Curry do?
Steph's a different player. He's the best shooter of all time, right? But here's what I'm trying to tell you. Because Harden took 9 threes a game, using field goal percentage is not going to give you an accurate
summary. He wasn't a very good three-point shooter either. He wasn't a very good three-point shooter. He wasn't a great three-point shooter. He's not a great three-point shooter.
He was one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Right?
Oh, my God. He was a volume shooter who could get hot But when he was cold, he was ice cold. It was not a good. What did he shoot for his career? Did he like 35%? That's 1% higher than LeBron James.
Right, but that's very disingenuous, Brent.
Because the truth is,
you have to consider the shot selection, the type of shots, and the type of defensive coverage he was getting. But you also got to consider the volume too.
The excuse, like no player has taken tough shots. Like no player took tough shots, John. James Harden was the only one.
Percentage of the tough shots you're taking.
He was taking 20.
James Harden's getting double teams. He is the guy in offense that was illegal all of those years.
Like
right, so he's seeing
dealing with that.
So he's seeing a lot more of a tough one-on-one matchup because guys are playing him to that three-point shot. And he was still efficient. 36%, 9 attempts is pretty good. And if you disagree with the inefficiency, you want to think James Harden's an inefficient player, then I'd like to know how in all of those years in Houston, every single season, minus 2015, they're a top 10 offense. They're always an elite offense.
You can be... Bro, if you are a great player who can score the ball at a high level, if you take enough shots, they're going to go in. You can be in, again, two things can be true. He can be inefficient and still have a top level offense. Like, again, I'm not making this up, him being an inefficient player. You only want to look at true shooting percentage. Fine.
Well, he got to the foul line 12 times a game. You're a big free throw percentage guy. He shot almost 90% for his career.
Yeah, I never brought up his free throw percentage because I would never make that argument that he was inefficient from the free throw line. That's an ignorant statement. That's an ignorant
you're
statement.
A Harden hater.
What happened?
I'm a Harden hater too, but there's levels to it. You're like generational. I'm just like, yeah.
I'm not this is not hate. These are factual statements. He was a 44% career field goal percentage shooter. That is inefficient by the standards of all the other all-time greats.
Yeah, but Brandon, if you're shooting 20 plus shots a game, you're shooting, how many you said, 9 threes a game as well? Yes. Bro, you're going to miss. Your field goal percentage is not going to be 55%. It's not going to be 50%. If he's shooting 50% from the field at that volume of shooting, then we'd be talking about him as one of the greatest shooters of all time too.
Justin, what do you call baseball fans that don't look at on-base percentage, but only look at batting average?
Honestly, it's not even on-base percentage. It's OPS plus, all these other numbers too.
So what do you call someone like me that would have that objective of I'm only going to look at batting average?
Nuts.
A casual.
Yeah,
I think looking at objectively just field goal percentage is not fair in a game that is so much different because, Brent, field goal percentage was created in the 1960s. That was when there was no three-point line. So using a 1960 stat in 2023, when the game has a three-point line and guys are taking, at some cases, 9 attempts per game, is not going to be accurate. It's just an inaccurate measure.
Can I ask you a question? Isn't three-point percentage included in field goal percentage?
Yes.
Okay, casual. So you want to call casual. You have a stat that was created to be this thing that you explained it, and I still don't understand it. You call me casual for that, but I'm pretty good at understanding things that are pretty simple. When it's very confusing and things you got to value this and divide that number by this and multiply. No, man, I can look at it. Why can't you just take field goal percentage, three-point percentage, free throw percentage, combine them all, find the average of that. That can be true field goal percentage. I just created a much simpler stat for you than instead of dividing and doing all this. Again, you can call me a casual all you want. Then why is the stat there? Why is the stat there?
It's supposed to be just a quick measurement that's always been there. Like, Brandon, the issue here is that
nobody brings up
three-point shots are harder to make.
Analytic heavy people. That is the only people who bring that up. That's not a shot. That is the fact.
I'm trying to tell you, Brandon. Scoring efficiency is measured by how many points you generate and not how frequently you make shots. So James Harden averaged more points per shot attempt than many other great players, but because they made more shots, DeAndre Jordan shot 70% from the field, 75% in some cases. But a three-point shot is created differently than two-point shots. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Scoring efficiency can't be just summarized by field goal percentage for a guard in a game where it's a lot more It's a lot more nuanced than just, okay, how often, how regularly do you make shot attempts? This is the issue why no one uses field goal percentage anymore to evaluate these all-time players. So the last name I have for you guys is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant versus Nikola Jokic.
I'll take KD every day and twice on Sunday. Brandon.
I would say it's very close because as a scorer, Kevin Durant's better. And as a playmaker, he's a little bit underrated too.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends how much you've added the playmaking here.
Honestly, when you look at KD and he gets compared and to, well, he gets called probably the greatest scorer of all time or the greatest offensive talent of all time. I don't think it's really that much of an argument. I think you have to go KD here. Brandon, please.
I honestly, I don't know anymore because apparently, the way I look at the game of basketball is completely wrong. Apparently, millions of people that look at the way of basketball is completely wrong. The analytic guys are right. Remember that. They're always right. They're always right because they've got these nuanced numbers that they look at and they don't take into consideration things surrounding them. It's like nobody said a 3-point shot is not more difficult than a 2-point shot. No shit, Sherlock. No shit.
This is why we don't use
field goal. But again, you answered the question and nodded yes when I said is 3-point percentage equaled into field goal percentage. But we're just going to go. But we got to go more analytical. We've got to go even more.
3-point attempts are included in field goal percentage, not 3-point efficiency.
Okay.
So,
but again, attempts and makes equal efficiency.
Now, on Brandon's side, yes, there is some value in those stats that we previously.
No, apparently they're not. Apparently it's not. Apparently you're casual if you think that, Justin. Apparently you're casual. Apparently you're
casual. Mentioned batting average, and while in today's era of baseball, we don't look at batting average as the true measure of what a player can be. But there's still a ton of value in it. You still would love to have a hitter that's batting 300 or 280 plus. So there is some value in those stats. It's not to be ignored, but it's also not the true measure of offense.
I'm not trying to attack field goal percentage, by the way. I'm just saying for Harden's
case, that's not how you sounded. Now you're backtracking. If you want to stand on it, stand on it. And I respect
I'm just telling you, saying he's inefficient because the field goal percentage is objectively false. Right? That's not
how is that objectively false when the number is in front of you and it is a stat that is recorded? How is that objectively false? That's subjectively, in your opinion, it's not a factual statement, but yet objectively it is because it's a number that is produced due to what he does on the court and is recorded. That is objectively a factual statement.
I don't even think field goal percentage carried in 1960. So it's outdated. So like Justin said, it's nice to have it, but it's not the end all be all. That's all we're getting at. So in Kevin Durant's case, he is not shooting 55% from the field. In some years, he shot closer to it, but
he's shooting 50%. I'm pretty sure. I think he's a 49% from the field average.
Yeah, but not 55%, and that's why I think it's not fair to use the field goal percentage as okay. You're inefficient if you shoot below 45, right? But if you're above 45, you're an efficient player.
I do think that's factual because if you look at AI, everybody says he was an inefficient scorer because he was under 45%. That's not disrespecting him. That is just stating a factual statement.
I had to look at what AI shot from three.
I think he was he was the worst 3-point shooter. I think he was like 33 or 34%.
And it was true, by the way. AI was, at 160 pounds, not the most efficient player. But field goal percentage wasn't the only indicator of that. There were many others.
No, yeah, there's also 3-point percentage.
Who would you take, Kevin Durant or Nikola Jokic? Justin's got KD.
I would take Kevin Durant.
Okay, I can understand it. He's the best scorer since Michael Jordan. The Jokic guy's going with Jokic here.
Damn. You have Jokic above LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Larry Bird. Did you have him? You had MJ and Magic over him, all right?
MJ and Magic both, yes, I did. And it's It's very hard to measure the value of playmaking because it's not going to tell you exactly. But Jokic in the playoffs is averaging 27 and 7. And I just don't think there's a better floor raiser for his team's success offensively. So I would have him in my top 4 all time by his peak, not his accolades alone. He's got a couple of accolades. So we've had a lot of NFL debates already. Why not have some more for the NFL and talk about who's better, the New York Jets or the Buffalo Bills? One of you two like to lead off here because I'm kind of curious to know, with Aaron Rodgers coming into the AFC East, he just had this injury in whatever type of practice that the Jets are having now. What team do you think will have a better 2023?
Okay, so I'll start this off because I've been big on the Bills and I've also been high on the Jets. And I remember Brandon coming from my head because I had said the Bills will win the division, but I also had higher expectations going into the postseason for the Jets. I've had a lot of time to think, and I have to go with, as my AFC East favorites. I'm changing it. I am going with the Jets as my AFC East favorites. I mean, I guess it's fitting because of that I'm writing with a green pen. I just truly believe that Aaron Rodgers is really going to make a major difference. And it seems like, from what I've seen from video and interviews and everything that we're seeing in reports, Aaron Rodgers is loving everything about New York right now. He's really, the second he got traded, the guy was going to Rangers playoff games, Knicks playoff games. He was just really being involved with New York City and New York culture. And I just think they're creating a very good vibe right there up in New Jersey with the Jets. Garrett Wilson and those young guys, Breece Hall coming back off of injury. Their acquisitions in the offseason. They already had a top of the line defense last year with Sauce Gardner. Another year under the belt. I just truly believe this Jets team is really ready to take flight. And they were just really missing the quarterback. And I hate to say it as a Patriot fan because, I just long for Jets failure. But at this point, when you throw Aaron Rodgers under center now, it's not AR-12, it's at number 8. I think the Jets are in prime position to not only just win this division, but contend for a Super Bowl. And I'll go as far to say, I think right now they might be the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Jets are the biggest.
This is the offseason.
Wow, that's a hot take. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, Aaron Rodgers was already dealing with an ankle injury. He's supposed to be perfectly fine, but I'm just saying, you're already getting nicked up in late May. You're not even getting touched. That's not a good sign. Jets versus Bills. Obviously, everybody that's watched this show knows my opinions on Josh Allen. I'm not the highest, especially on Justin's level, who is saying Josh Allen is neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes. But I would obviously take the Bills. They're the more proven team, more established team. But the Jets are listen. There's no knock on the Jets because they have a top 5 defense. Like, that's not to be sneezed at, right? The receiving weapons are going to be elevated due to Aaron Rodgers' entrance to the New York Jets, who I still believe is the second best quarterback in the league behind Patrick Mahomes. But there are questions. Aaron Rodgers getting up there in age. Breece Hall's, while everybody knows the talent and skill level, he's coming off a torn ACL. We all know it usually takes another year before a player gets back to where they once were, unless you're Adrian Peterson, who's a freak of nature. You got Garrett Wilson, who was the offensive rookie of the year last year, and he did that with Zach Wilson and Mike White. But we also have to look on the other side of that, where now and Stephen A made this point, which is very valid and good point. Now you are the quote unquote true number one. Like, you're not a surprise anymore to teams. You're going to be honed in on. They know what your skill level is because you showed them last year. So now you're going to be honed in on more. So now, can you beat those matchups where you are the number one primary focus of the defense. That is yet to be seen, and we're going to see. And that's where really you go from like good to very good to great. Like that's what establishes greatness. And then the offensive line has been, tricky for the New York Jets. Mekhi Becton can't stay healthy. We all know his skill level, but he can't stay healthy. And also Robert Saleh. He hasn't proven anything in this league. There's a lot of respect for that guy, but you still haven't proven anything. And we're going to have to see. There's a lot of questions for these Jets. I know Dan Orlovsky was on First Take. I think it was yesterday, and he was saying, show me the weaknesses for these New York Jets. I just think there's a lot of questions. I just think there are a lot of questions for these New York Jets. Do I think that they are going to be a much better team than they were last year? 100%. You just added Aaron Rodgers. But that AFC East is loaded. While I've been super low on my New England Patriots, there's still a Bill Belichick-led team that's going to have a top 5 defense. The Dolphins got off to a hot start. If Tua's healthy, we know how effective that offense can be. They've added pieces to that defense, Jalen Ramsey being the number one name. It's going to be tough, and not to just mention inside your division, the entire conference. The AFC is stacked. So
It's going to be a bloodbath.
It's listen, Aaron Rodgers gambled here. I got to be honest. He really did gamble with the New York Jets going to the Jets. And we're going to see if it pays off or not.
To build off that point, so the Jets have a weakness. Who is the number 2 receiver on this team? McCole Hardman? Alan Lazard,
who actually just went down. He just went down too, I think. I think he got injured.
And I look at the offensive line. You've got a 70-year-old Dwayne Brown, who was great for years in Seattle. You've got Mekhi Becton, who hasn't been healthy since 2020 as a rookie. That was 3 years ago. And then maybe Max Mitchell, a 4th-round pick. So what's the issue with the Jets? Tackles, Aaron Rodgers' health, and then your running back's health. Their defense is something Aaron Rodgers hasn't had in a decade, but the Jets do have some pretty big concerns offensively, and they're expecting Aaron Rodgers, which is very reasonable, to solve a lot of those. But last year, the Packers' offensive line was banged up. It was shifting parts, and it's going to be a similar story for this Jets team. He's also going to be 40 years old soon. So you look at what they have defensively, and that is supposed to be the grand all be all. What's the difference for me between the Jets and the Bills is that they actually have a defense that's trending upward. We're talking about the Bills. Von Miller tore his ACL, which is paid over $60 million guaranteed a year ago. Tre'Davious White last year was also coming off a similar injury, and he did not look right the second half of the year. But then you look at Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. These are older safeties that have dealt with injury issues. Shout out to DeMar Hamlin. Prayers to him. He was filling in for them at safety. We don't know if he'll play. And then you look at the defensive line. They've been ravaged by injuries the last couple of years. First, the Bengals, they got ran all over in the playoffs because Daquan Jones wasn't in there, right? So the Bills defense, while it's been really good, has fallen apart every single year in December. And their offensive line, though they drafted Osiris Torrance, still has some pretty big concerns. So I'm talking about these two teams. Is this a cop-out to say I think the Dolphins are the best team in this division?
Okay, that's ludicrous because you can't speak on all the injuries you just spoke on and pick the Dolphins when you know their number one concern is their quarterback's injury history.
Have you seen the pictures of Tua?
What is he?
Tua's putting on size right now. He's putting on body armor, man.
Was it? I'm sorry. Was the major injury anything of his body? It was his head. I mean,
From violently being thrown to the ground.
Okay, he's still 6 foot tall, and these guys are. I mean, John, you think like overnight? This guy's not Josh Allen, okay? Right. He's not Cam Newton. He's not Ben Roethlisberger. He's like, I get it, and I respect. Listen, put on the weight, do what you can. But again, there's also this saying too, and I've heard this from Tom, Eli, Peyton, and you could just look at their body types and see it. You actually don't want your quarterback to be shredded. You want them to have a little bit of flap because it's an absorption more. But I don't know how you can name all those injuries down the Bills defense. And then you look at the Dolphins and say, there's the cop out of Dolphins when their number one concern is their quarterback's injury history. I would much rather have injury concerns on every other position on the field than my quarterback. So that's why I think I would disqualify the Dolphins right there.
Disqualify.
You want to go? I mean, you believe in Mike White that much?
I do believe in Vic Fangio coming in, right? Like this Dolphins defense
We're not
last
talking
year.
about the defense. We're talking about the offense. And defensively, the Jets got a great defense. The Pats got a great defense.
I'm not going to take this away from the Jets-Bills discussion, but the Dolphins had the best coaching, I think, outside of the Patriots. And even then, I think that Mike McDaniel and Vic Fangio teaming up together, that might be the best offensive mind, ex-defensive coordinator in the league. So defensively, that and Jalen Ramsey and Dave Alon. But then offensively, you've got way better weapons than any other team in this division.
Yes.
And while the Dolphins' one big concern is offensive line, the way their scheme set up with all their speed, they know how to utilize it. It's just getting the ball off Tua's hands quickly. So like my thought with the Dolphins is if Tua's putting on weight, he's training for jiu-jitsu, he's practicing with his new helmet on. I think there's a chance this year we do see him stay healthy because he gets the ball out quicker and quicker and quicker than any other player in the league. But if he doesn't stay healthy, obviously, they're going to crumble. And I'm fully expecting that to be a reality.
That's a big if.
I think they have the best roster in this division. And it's also paired up with the best coaching too, right? Like that defense to have Xavier Howard, he had a bad year last year, but could he bounce back with Javon Holland and Jalen Ramsey when you've got a good linebacking team, or I really should say a good edge rush, and then you're adding in Dave Alon into the linebacker corps, and then you've also got Christian Wilkins at defensive tackle. That is going to be a top 10 defense. They've got way too many talented players, but at the same time, their scheme with Vic Fangio, that should be implemented properly. I don't think there's really a concern on that front.
No. Yeah, there's no concern on that front. My only concern with the Dolphins would be the quarterback, and I think that's a massive concern. And I can't get past that. That's where I cut the right down. I'm just like I can't do it. It's just not. So, and I don't wish it. I pray for him to stay healthy because you don't want anybody dealing with the type of things that he went through. But as a man, Tom Brady was the guy in NFL history who get the ball out the quickest. Tom Brady has taken his fair share of big shots over the years because sometimes you can't get the ball out. Sometimes a mistake happens. Sometimes a player misses a block. Sometimes a running back doesn't go out and that's your safety net, or your tight end doesn't do that. This is football. Mistakes happen, and it's going to be very, very. You're like, I hear you on the team, but it's just too. I'm just like,
I hear you, but he did also play 13 games his last season. He played 13 his second year, and his first year in the league, he started almost every game once he became the starter.
Yeah, but if he gets one more concussion, John, that might be his career. He's openly talked about that. I have discussed it throughout the offseason of retiring. And if that's the case, you get one more concussion. It doesn't matter if you're playing 13 games a season. One more concussion, it's done because you want to have a future with your family.
I think having Miami in this discussion is way too soon, especially with the concerns around Tua. That's why I didn't even, when we talked about this pre-show about which teams, I said Bills and Jets immediately, because that's who we all expect to really be in the top two. Now, can Miami go on those stretches? Absolutely. They did it last year. They can start off 6-2 for all we know. They have the offensive power, and now with Jalen Ramsey on defense, they can definitely contend with anybody. But I do think the QB questions are just way too much for me to even put them in this conversation when you got Josh Allen, an MVP candidate, and then you got one of the greatest of all time in Aaron Rodgers. So I leave Miami completely off of this.
But when I'm talking about the Jets versus the Bills, Aaron Rodgers is at that age where he is also a durability red flag too. And their offensive line is probably on the same level as the Dolphins. It's not good. The Jets' offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, is a good fit with Rodgers because they've worked together before. But I don't know if it's going to be a whole lot better in terms of him staying off the ground than last year. I think he's going to be in the dirt often. And if he's hurt, then the Jets too, like their backup quarterback is Hill.
Yeah, well, I mean, for any team, if their quarterback goes down 100%, I would just say that about the Rodgers and Tua thing. Rodgers' injuries aren't career-threatening. Tua's are.
I understand that, but we're talking about this season, which is why I'm not under that impression of what does this mean for Tua long term. I'm just like, in a vacuum, 2023, ranking these three teams, I feel like the Dolphins and the Bills will get off the quicker starts than the Jets. But by the end of the year, if Rodgers isn't healthy and Tua, let's say in theory, is not on the floor, not on the field either, they can still win a lot of games with Mike White in theory because their running back room, while there's no bell cow, has a lot of different players that fit in. Jeff Wilson, Raheem, you got Devon Achane. I think that even with the backup quarterback, if Aaron Rodgers and Tua are not playing Week 18 or Week 16 more specifically, that the Dolphins would be a better team than the Jets. And it's very possible that Aaron does not play a full 16, 17 game season, just like Tua.
Does it? I feel like I already have my answer, but no stock in Zach Wilson learning under Aaron Rodgers. If God forbid Aaron Rodgers had to miss a game, does that not mean anything?
Justin, that's a great point because this is the guy who said that Zach Wilson could have a career resurgence because he is sitting under Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, this guy is correct. He could, but I don't think it'll be an overnight thing. We saw with Geno, he had to spend 5 years, 6 on the pine behind Hall of Famers. And then with Sam Darnold, it's going to take him 1 or 2 years to rehabilitate if he ever becomes a starter again. With Zach Wilson, I think it'll be a very similar story because this division has live dogs. The Dolphins, the Jets, the Patriots, the Bills. You're going up against those defenses, not the Jets. They're all going to be pretty good. And this AFC more so, I don't think Zach's going to be ready this year with the speed of the game that was just too quick for him last year. So to answer your question, Zach Wilson in 2 years, I've got a little bit of stock in there, but it's a penny stock. And this year, that penny stock won't come to fruition.
I have more stock in Zach than you do then, because I honestly do believe that if Aaron Rodgers had to go down, I think a full offseason working with him, playing behind him, I think that'll do him some justice. I think the Jets are in a good spot. When we look at backups in the league, I mean, talent-wise, not too many backups have as much talent as Zach Wilson now. It's just
I'll take Mike White. He's a better backup, Justin.
I think talent-wise, but he's capable of.
Who is the better backup quarterback, Mike or Zach this year? What do you think?
No, it's Mike going into the season because you're really just relying on, like I said, his arm talent to win you some games. But if he narrowed down the decision-making and his accuracy issues, you might have yourself one of the top backups in the league.
No.
I agree.
No.
I don't know if this is like a lack of vibes. Is it? I feel like the Bills this year are going to take a step back. They had a good draft. I love the Torrance pick in the second round. I'm a big fan of Dalton Kincaid coming in because he was my top tight end. But I feel like the Bills' defense is going to fall off a cliff. And I look at their offense that is really still reliant on Stephon Diggs. And I don't know if Damian Harris is going to be the solution to their lack of an identity running the football because Devin Singletary, while a worse back and while less of a bell cow in between the tackles, is still not that far from Harris. I look at this Bills team and it kind of gives me a vibe of we were a 12, 13 win team the last 3 years, but we're going to be a 9 or 10 win team this year because our defense has massive health and age questions, but then we're still asking Josh Allen to be Superman. And I don't think long-term that's a recipe for sustaining their place at the top of the AFC.
I do think that it's going to be tough for all 4 of these teams because I don't know if any of the teams in the AFC East are going to sweep each other in their head-to-head matchups. I think it might get split all the way down. But, I'm not – you guys know my feelings on Zach Wilson. I do not see that. And the talent thing, sorry, Justin, I know I laugh, but it's just because we brought up the talent. I even brought up the talent last year that, we're looking at the talent. But at some point, he's on the field, and you can't just say it's talent when he's just doing the, my little imitation. If you're missing the throws, is it really talent or are you just –
People off the bag on the kid. We'll
it's
give
not
him
bagging. This is –
he went from BYU to the NFL. It's going to be an adjustment.
I think playing under Aaron Rodgers does make a big difference. So, man, who knows? You don't know what kind of quarterback we're going to see.
That's enough Zach Wilson
for Ryan Mallett.
It's easy to bag on a kid when he's down, but give him a few years. It's easy to bag on Geno in 2015. It's easy to bag on Sam Darnold.
I was a fan of Geno coming out of college, okay? So I don't want to hear that.
Everybody was a Geno fan. And I think a lot of people are Zach Wilson fans too.
Remember
Because
Tavon
before
Austin?
his pro day, he was the second-ranked quarterback in that class. No, I thought he was the third. But what
John,
do you think,
I'm
Justin?
with
You're a
you
Bills
with,
guy. What do you think
Buffalo.
about that?
No, I'm with you on the Bills. I do feel like their defense. I think that's really the main reason why I put the Jets over the Bills. Is I don't think that defense is up to snuff with what the Jets have to offer. The offensive firepower is there because it's Josh Allen there, but at the end of the day, you can't keep relying on him to be that guy. You need to help him out. You can't just rely on that arm over and over and over again, throwing 50 times a game. No, that's not going to work. And at some point, your defense. I think for Buffalo to really be successful, you have to have a top 10 defense because I think it's a shoo-in that we expect them to be a top 10 offense. So you gotta marry the two for them to
I
have some
think the
success.
Bills. I think the Bills are the worst defense in this division too. Sounds crazy. For the last couple of years, it's been the best, but the Jets are trending upward. The Dolphins are definitely going to be better this year. And then you look at the Patriots, that could be the best defense in the AFC. Like, I look at the Bills, and I'm like, you're the oldest, you have the most injury concerns, and you're also the thinnest too in depth. So put those three things together with the team that has the last 2 years collapsed against elite offenses in January and a little bit of December too. And I think there's going to be one team in this AFC that falls off this year. That could be the Bills, especially if Josh Allen. What if Josh Allen misses 3 weeks? He's been Superman. But what if he has like a high ankle sprain, right? And it's from running the football and having like 50 touches a game, like he's a bell cow running back. And now you're looking to the backup to play with this defense. I really think there's a chance they altogether are a wild card team that gets knocked out this year. And we see some big changes in Buffalo. I don't think one good draft, which we haven't seen these guys play on the field yet, is going to turn around their lack of an identity offensively in the running attack. And then more importantly, like I've said a million times in the show, like I don't know if this defense will be top 15.
Well,
Absolutely.
can't argue.
But before we move on, Aaron Rodgers, a quote. He said, "It feels like a dream every month. It's been a dream month.
It's been a honeymoon. That's what it's been.
The honeymoon
phase.
I think it's a great phase for the Jets to be in, but we're gonna have to see in week 6 when he has like a rough 2 games, how the media treats him and how he responds to that. That's what I'm really curious to see because he's never had to deal with a media market on the level of New York. And I feel like given his personality, he's like, screw these guys by the middle of the season. And that's probably going to wear off at some point, though we are so excited to have him. Aaron, go win these guys a Super Bowl, man. If it's not going to be my Steelers, but it's pretty exciting to be a Jet fan, regardless of how you want to view it.
Nope.
So do we have any over-unders coming in for the NFL? I don't have any right now in front of me, but we want to have a new sequence, new segment on the show where we give over-unders and our predictions for this year.
Okay, so I made this one myself. The touchdown numbers that I came up with my own brain. Now, I feel like for our fans that watch on YouTube or look at our shorts, we would love to get into the betting platform a little bit, so help you guys win a little bit of money. So if you're going to throw down some bets this year, pay attention to these over-unders. Brandon knows all. So, all right, we're going to go over-under on touchdowns, all right? We'll start with your boy, Kenny Pickett. Over-under 15.5.
15.5.
Wait, is this passing and rushing or just passing?
I was going just passing.
Okay, just 15. He'll get over.
So,
mind you,
Kenny Pickett in 2022 had 7 touchdown passes, but due to 2 concussions and him not starting until week 3, it was a little bit skewed, those statistics. But look, they're adding to this offensive line. Now she's going to be healthy. It's going to open up the play action game. But then he's going to have a full offseason to work with George Pickens and Deontay. I am smashing the over on 15.5 touchdowns. To me, I think it's like 23. That's where I'm comfortable putting him this year. Yep.
23. Okay.
Absolutely. This is going to be a huge make or break year, and I think he's going to show people what's up.
Do you know how many passing touchdowns your Steelers had last season?
9.
The fewest in the league with 12.
I'm surprised we had 12.
If he doesn't throw for over 15 touchdowns, I think some people's ears and eyes are going to start opening up a lot wider on him.
Or
so
Matt
Brandon,
Canada.
give me a number.
Oh yeah, Matt Canada. Well, no, I think he should. Over on 15.5. I think he could get to 20.
20. Okay.
I think you get to 20.
All right. Next quarterback. Had a down year last year. A lot of controversy surrounding him. We're going Mac Jones. Over under 21.5 passing touchdowns.
Mac and cheese. 21. Over.
I'm taking the
Mac
over.
Jones had 14 this last season in 14 games. As a rookie, he had 22.
No.
Mostly forgotten rookie season by some people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go with Bill O'Brien being in the fold. Ramondre Stevenson, again, play action attack for the Patriots. You know, I'm actually going to go the under here because they're going to be a run-first team, and there's not going to be a lot of opportunity beyond Juju and Mike Gesicki for touchdowns, I think, in this offense. So I'm going to go with like 21, 20. I think he's going to be very close, but I think he'll barely get it, or he'll barely miss it. He'll barely miss
I see
it.
Mac getting to 23. I got 23 if I'm going to lock in a number. Okay.
He better
Next
throw for
quarterback.
21 touchdowns.
What happened, Brandon?
I said he better throw for over 21 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, he better. All right. We're already talking about this quarterback and our concerns about him. Tua Tagovailoa, over or under 24.5 touchdowns.
How many did he have last year? Was it under that? Did he get under that? He played.
Tua last year had 25. In his sophomore year, he had 16. By the way, this year, he had the highest touchdown percentage, 6%, in the 14 games. The 13 games he played, he had a 6.3 touchdown percentage, which was the highest in the NFL.
Over under 25 touchdowns. Under.
I'm also going to go with the under. I'm not putting my money on him staying healthy. But if he does, that is great value, I think.
I'm taking the over here. I give Tua at least 28. I think Tua's going to have a nice year, if healthy. All right. This guy stepped up big for the Seattle Seahawks last season. Came out of nowhere. Nobody expected this from him. Geno Smith. Over under 26.5. I'm taking the
30.
under.
He had 30 this last season.
You're taking him under?
I'm taking him under 26.5.
He had 30, and now he adds in JSN. Second year starting. I'm going to go with the over here. This Seahawks team is going to air it out. Last year was not a fluke. It was what he showed us in 2021 in the 3 games Russell Wilson missed. I think he'll play at a similar level with this type of talent around him.
So what Geno did last year was not a fluke?
No. This is who he's been the last 2 years.
Okay.
Give this man more reps, and he's going to show.
Ah, man. Because I know it's going to sound like I'm, disrespecting him. I got to go under.
Dude.
I think that he's coming into his obviously second year of this after the incredible year he had last year. I think it's similar to Garrett Wilson, where you're not going to come as a surprise to these teams anymore. They're going to hone in on you, and they're going to see. And there's got to be something to be said that I think it was the Bucs game, and after that, he did not play well. There's something to be said for that. And I just have a sneaky feeling that he's going to come back to earth a little bit more. But I'm rooting for him. This is not me not rooting for him because, like I said, I was rooting for Geno when he was coming out of West Virginia. I liked him a lot. But I just think that he's going to come back to earth.
Let's not forget, he was shredding up the 49ers after that Tampa Bay game. He had a really good playoff game against them too, but they lost in the second half. I think he was still a good quarterback after that Tampa game.
I don't believe in this big Geno thing, and I root for him. I wish him all the best, but this lifelong basically backup quarterback for his career, stepping up here for Seattle. It was a nice story for a year. Now the real question is Geno the kind of guy that's going to take you to the next level? I don't think so. So I really think he'll revert back to a little bit of his old ways. I think he's going to be a decent quarterback. I'll go maybe 20 touchdowns, 22.
Dude, he's going to get like 7 versus the Rams by himself in 3 games. And they get to play the Cardinals too. There's talk about 4 get-right games in the schedule. Oh, man. I don't know, man. That's 4 get-rights. That's a lot.
Well, for our next quarterback, since they'll be basically compared for the rest of their contracts or their tenures with their new organizations. Let's go Russell Wilson. Over under 26.5.
He was like 15, right, last year, I think. Ugh. All right, so Sean Payton's in.
16.
You said 25 or over
26.5.
26.5. I'm gonna say I have a lot of faith in Sean Payton to rewrite things. Now, I'm not going to dive headfirst into that statement and like stamp my approval and die on that hill, but I have faith in him. I don't think last year was all on Russell. There's definitely culpability. You can go 50-50. I don't really care. I just don't think it was all on him. I think Russell looks more like what we have seen in the past. So I go over.
Sean Payton can do wonders, and that can include a Geno resurgence. Not with this receiving core. I'm taking the under here.
I'm taking the under, although I'm expecting a much better version of Russell Wilson. I think a healthy running back will run right through this, and I think Russ will start to use his legs a little bit more. Let's see some athleticism out of him. So I think he'll overall total over 26, but I think passing-wise, maybe 24. Just short of the 26 mark.
Like they showed us in free agency, they're going to run the ball more. Like that's what their identity is going to be. And I'm expecting him to be like Daniel Jones last year with just more upside. That's my expectation.
Perfect segue. I wish JQ was here. Last quarterback on here. Now, I know Brandon isn't too high on him. Danny Dimes. Over under 24.5 passing touchdowns.
Had 15 last year in 16 games.
Another year with Coach Dable.
Smash the under.
This is great value because Jalen Hyatt's coming in from Tennessee, and Brian Dable is going to use him very well. And I think his speed. After that, though, there's not much more. It's got to be a run-first team.
They added Darren Waller, but he's got injury history.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah,
I was thinking of Evan Ingram. I was thinking of the wrong tight end.
Yeah. No, he's balling out in Jacksonville. But yeah, I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be going 24 over that. You guys know my opinion on Daniel Jones. I don't think he's that guy. I think he's a very, very good backup. Now that is a great backup quarterback.
Oh my, Justin,
that's not disrespectful.
I think he's going to have 23. So a little bit under.
Okay. Yep, I'm with you, John. But I also believe I wouldn't be shocked if he has 7 to 10 rushing touchdowns. I think Daniel Jones has a great year. Just doesn't meet the passing touchdown mark. But yep, that's all I have for you. Unless you guys want to touch, I had a maybe with Lamar Jackson. You want to go with Lamar?
Let's do it.
Over under 27.5.
Oh, this is combined over.
Oh, if it's combined?
Yeah, if you're combining.
Passing.
27.
How many did he throw for in his first full season?
Wasn't
36.
Wasn't that his MVP?
Yep.
Lily NFL.
We haven't seen that guy in a long time, though.
The last 3 years, he's had 26, 16, 17. And that's partially because he's played just 12 games the last 2 years. So he's missed 5.
Yeah, so they add Odell. They draft Zay Flowers. Still got Mark Andrews.
Rashad Bateman's coming off injury. J.K. Dobbins a year off the torn ACL. So is Gus Edwards. New offensive coordinator, most importantly, in Todd Monken, who at Georgia was pretty good with his weapons and his quarterback. Justin, 27 touchdowns. I'm taking the over on this one. Even if he plays 12 or 13 games, their identity is going to shift this year. We're going to see more Lamar turnovers probably, but a lot more upside. And I think they're going to be a scary team down the field as Zay Flowers coming in here. It's going to be lightning in the bottle, or lightning, I should say. And the bottle won't be small. It's going to be an explosive year from Lamar.
I'll say over, but just barely.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. I think Lamar throws for over 30 this year.
Okay.
Well, that's all I got for you guys.
Lightning.
Place your bets, guys. Place your bets.
Place your bets. Place your bets. Still got OTAs to go, so let's don't place your bets yet. But yeah, I mean, does anybody? This is a question. Does anybody have a way too early Super Bowl prediction that they're like kind of like having this feeling? Because I've tried to, I really don't know. Because of how wide open the NFC is and how stacked the AFC is. I just listen. You can say the Chiefs because they've been there and done that, and I respect that. But goddamn, listen, man, the Patriots didn't go every year, and there's great teams out there. Either you guys don't. I'm guessing you guys don't have any.
No. For the sake of it, I'll come up with one.
Okay, go ahead, throw it out, Jason.
Representing the NFC, I'm going to go with the 49ers.
Okay, he's still on that. He's still
on the 49ers train. Still very much on that. And I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for them. It could be Sam Darnold. It could be Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. I don't know. I don't care who it is. San Francisco to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And on the AFC side, it's a little bit more tricky because I'm very high on the Jets. I'm high on Baltimore, and I'm always high on the Chiefs.
Yep.
I'll go with the Chiefs. San Francisco, Kansas City rematch.
Okay. John, you got any or caught you way too off guard?
It's very tough because the AFC is a dogfight, and I don't know. Could this be the Jaguars here? Could it finally be the Bills or the Bengals getting over the hump?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, are two different humps on different levels. But I think as a Steeler fan, me taking the Bengals would be disgusting. That being said,
taking the Bengals.
I think a team's coming to the Super Bowl at the AFC North this year. It's been the best division in football last couple of years. I said it. And whoever wins will already be well prepared for that dogfight. I think Cincinnati this year can do it, but so could Baltimore with the upside they're going to have. Each of those two teams are legitimately Super Bowl threats, not contenders. And I think those are two top 4 teams in the AFC with the Dolphins and the Chiefs over the Bills. And I think the Jets would be a 5th team in there. I think they'll be like a scary wild card team. So my prediction for the Super Bowl this year will be Bengals, 49ers, even if Sam Darnold's under center. Kyle Shanahan has done wonders with backup quarterbacks. Sam's the most talented one he'll have. And that defense, while it's going to be different, no D'Amico Ryans, it's still adding in Javon Hargrave. Their offense will have a full year with CMC. I'm expecting the 49ers versus Bengals to be this year's Super Bowl matchup.
All right, I'll play along. I'll give you guys one. Coming out the AFC, I'm going back and forth right now, and it's hard for me even to decide because John named both of them. It's the Bengals and Jaguars for me. If I had to decide, oh man, dude, that's so tough. I'm going to say the Bengals right now, but the Jaguars are right there with them. Out of the NFC, I'm going to do it. We're going to have a Bengals, Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl next year. Book it.
No Kellen Moore. Mike McCarthy calling the plays, leading
Dallas. I'm not high on that. I'm not high on that at all, but I like the players. I like the moves they've made. Dan Quinn is still there. You got Micah.
Okay.
That's what I'm giving right now. But
we'll see.
We haven't even seen it.
We'll probably have completely different predictions.
We're gonna have I mean, we're gonna make our preseason picks in a couple of months as well, but that's just a way too early one. So yeah.
I feel like John's processing it.
If the Cowboys have ever had a chance to go to the Super Bowl, this is the best they've had since the 90s.
I think that every Cowboys fan has said that for the past 20 years.
That would be different.
Yeah, but listen, I got to be the Cowboys guy on this show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it definitely won't be us.
How about them Cowboys?
No. While we're at it, we didn't get to speak about Jim Brown passing away, the all-time, probably the greatest running back in his time. That was literally like a lacrosse star in college. I was almost his best sport at Syracuse. But he's also one of the greatest athletes of all time, but so much more than that. An activist at a time where players of power, I mean, he did a phenomenal job with the likes of Kareem, Oscar, Muhammad Ali, all of these athletes in a time where the way we view them was much different, but at the same time, the culture, the dynamics of the United States, it was much different. And guys like Jim Brown, who even retired on set from the NFL so that he can pursue an acting career full time, he is a pioneer in many ways, and surely a great we're going to miss. I wish the Browns, as a football fan, I wish the Browns could have returned to the glory that he once brought them to in his time, because the only championship the Cleveland Browns have had since then was LeBron in 2016. And I think for the city, Jim Brown will forever be an emblem for Ohio, and truly a player, again, that is very underappreciated and one that will never be forgotten.
Absolutely. Well said, John.
Yeah, I mean, RIP Jim Brown. He lived a long, great life. One of the greatest running backs of all times, one of the greatest people of all times, like John said. A Hall of Famer in the NFL, Hall of Famer in lacrosse. I mean, you can't get any more high level than that. Yeah, shout out to the one and only Jim Brown.
Yep, a Hall of Fame player and a Hall of Fame person, most importantly. So
I like that.
It's not too much.
I like it a lot.
So, with all that being said, that is going to conclude episode 105 of the Wise Guys podcast. Thank you guys for watching and staying all the way to the very end. And if you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like. And as always, till next time.
stay classy. Oh, this